In his book, The God Delusion, Richard Dawkins claims Hitler was a Catholic. His evidence to back up this claim is ridiculous. He says Hitler sometimes claimed to be a Catholic. So what? All historians know that Hitler lied constantly. It is bizarre that Dawkins thinks we should believe something just because Hitler said it was true. Then Dawkins says a guy named John Toland wrote a book about Hitler and said Hitler believed in God. Again, so what? John Toland was just a crackpot conspiracy theorist who wrote popular history books, and he presented absolutely no evidence to back up his claim that Hitler believed in God. He wanted people to just take it on faith. Dawkins never explains why he believes John Toland. The truth, which Dawkins can't bear to admit, is that there is overwhelming evidence that Hitler hated Christianity. There is a man named Saul Friedlander who is a professor of history at UCLA. He is considered one of the world's leading experts on the Holocaust, and he won a Pulitzer Prize years ago for a massive book about the Holocaust called The Years of Extermination, Nazi Germany and the Jews, 1939 to 1945. On page 203 of that book, Friedlander says Hitler hated Christianity and in fact openly said so. You can also look at the massive 2-volume biography of Hitler that was written by a history professor named Ian Kershaw. Kershaw is spelled Kershaw, in case you want to look up his books in your local library. Kershaw makes it clear that Hitler had no religious life whatever in his adult life. If he had had any, Kershaw surely would have mentioned it, since he discusses Hitler's life in great detail. Of course, the militant atheists themselves indirectly have proven that Hitler was not religious, because they never present any evidence that he went to church in adulthood, or went to confession, or prayed, or read the Bible. Apparently none of the people who he knew ever saw him do any of those things. And if he was a Christian of any kind, why did he repeatedly go to bed with Eva Braun without marrying her first? You can also look at the fact that a man named John Cornwell has written a book called Hitler's Pope, in which he throws mud at Pope Pius XII, very unfairly in my opinion. But even Cornwell admits on page 116 of that book that the Vatican's official newspaper said in 1930 that Catholics were not allowed to belong to the Nazi Party. Then on pages 126 and 127 of that book, Cornwell admits that the German Catholic bishops in 1932 repeated that Catholics were not allowed to belong to the Nazi Party. If Hitler was a Catholic, why did he not quit the Nazi Party when the Pope and the bishops condemned it? The answer is obvious. Hitler was not a Catholic, and he did not care what the Pope and the bishops said. But Dawkins can't bear to face that fact. You can also go to Wikipedia and read the article about Pope Pius XI, and see that in 1937 he issued a pastoral letter called the Mitbrennender Sorge, in which he denounced the Nazi Party. But Dawkins doesn't want to talk about that either. That would be honesty, and why would Dawkins want to be honest? Finally, there is the fact that Hitler had 2,762 Christian clergymen and nuns arrested and locked up in the Dachau concentration camp. A third of them died there. You can read about this in an article written by the famous historian Istvan Diak in the November 5, 2001 issue of New Republic magazine. If Hitler was a Christian, why did he have all those Christian clergymen and nuns arrested and killed? Dawkins fails to even discuss this. The simple fact is that the 4 biggest mass murderers of the 20th century, Hitler, Stalin, Mao Zedong, and Pol Pot, were all atheists. Even the militant atheists never try to claim that Stalin, Mao Zedong, and Pol Pot were not atheists. And you have to ask yourself, is it really just a coincidence that the 4 biggest mass murderers of the 20th century were all atheists? Doesn't that indicate that atheism gives some people the feeling that it is okay to give free rein to their worst impulses? Then there is the fact that years ago a team of researchers from Harvard University looked at the lives of young men in poor neighborhoods in the United States and found that the ones who went to church every week had a much lower crime rate than the ones who didn't. You can read about this study in an article by Richard B. Freeman in the July 20th, 1986 New York Times. But Dawkins doesn't want to talk about that either.